First and foremost, I want to welcome everyone for joining. This is the first of our 12-part webinar series. We'll be doing one each month. Welcome everyone to the first one. Happy you made it. On the webinar today, we've got Jason Swenk, who is a digital agency coach who has helped over 20,000 agency owners scale their business. And he's also the host of the Smart Agency Masterclass podcast with over 1 million listeners. The topic of today is the perfect agency explained. We're going to get into all the nuts and bolts of the 8 most important elements to transform your agency challenges into assets that create predictability, wealth, and freedom. Now, just the format of the webinar. Feel free to post your questions at any time in the Q&A section. Don't be shy. And we will answer them as best we can. And once the webinar is over, we can kind of go through those questions in more detail. So yeah, without further ado, Jason, I'm going to pass the ball to you, and let's get rocking and rolling here.
Awesome. Let me hit share. And then you guys tell me if you can see my screen. You guys see it?
Yep, I can see it.
All right, perfect. Cool. So, the title, creating the perfect webinar, or sorry, the perfect agency. It's about creating the perfect agency that I'm looking for when we're buying, right? Like, I'm going to go over the kind of the 8 elements that really, if you start looking at, even if you don't want to sell your agency one day, I still want you to really kind of ask yourself, do I have these in place? Because this will allow you guys to really create the freedom in your agency that you want, the predictability. So let's go ahead and rock and roll. So, like you heard, I've been in the business since 1999. I created an agency by accident. So I was an accidental agency owner, probably like a lot of you, right? I would love to put in the chat. Are you guys accidental agency owners? I one of my friends looked like Justin Timberlake from NSYNC, and I did a fake band, fake website called In Shit, and it got popular. And then people started asking me to design websites for them. And so I started doing like $500 websites here and there, and then eventually $1,000 websites, and then kept going up and up. And after a couple of years, I was just reacting to the market, and it really kind of slowed up. So we got Eric and Bianca, yes, sort of. David, yeah. So we're all accidental agency owners. And so in the past couple of years, in the past decade, I've been consulting with agencies all over the world. And in the past 2 years, we created another agency where we've bought 9 businesses, 9 agencies. And I just wanted to go through kind of the 8 elements that I'm looking for, because a lot of you, when we start, we've had envisions to sell our agency for a life-changing amount. And I just want you to know kind of what these bigger businesses are actually looking for, because when I got our agency to a certain level and I started having people reach out to us to buy, having those conversations actually really helped us figure out, where do we need to go next and what do I need to change? So let's kind of talk about the first element. And the biggest thing is do you guys clearly have a defined vision, and does your team know it? Think about the first question I asked, or the first thing I told you about my origin story was, I was an accidental agency owner, meaning I was reacting to everything coming to me, right? I didn't know who my client was, who they needed to be. I didn't know what I wanted to become. And I couldn't figure out why my whole team was coming to me for every single darn decision, right? So imagine, like, Manish has over 200 people at his company. If all 200 people kept coming to Manish to make a decision because they didn't know where they were going, it would drive him batshit crazy, and there would be no way he would have 200 people. And it's the same thing with your agency. Think about it. If you constantly keep complaining about your employees coming to you to make every decision, and you're like, just make a decision, it might be because they don't know where the company's going. For example, a couple of years ago, I told my team, our whole vision for what we want to do is create a resource I wish I had when I was running the first agency. So my team was writing a blog post, and the blog post was like the top 20 conferences, if you're an agency owner, you need to go to. They listed 20. Out of the 23 of them, I didn't like. Now, my team will tell you I didn't like them because they didn't ask me to speak at their conferences. And that is true. And I said, take them off. I don't want to list them out. And my team was able to make a decision and actually even called me out on it. They go, Jason, our vision is to create a resource we wish we had. Is this good for agency owners? I said, yes, put it back in. Right. So a vision and a clear defined vision and having your team know it is crucial. And if you don't know where it's going, why am I going to want to buy it? So that's kind of the first part. Alano, who's in our mastermind, he runs CyberWise. He tripled his agency in 2 years by getting specific at really narrowing down a niche and a specialization and letting his team know where they were going, what their North Star was. So if you're kind of been plateaued for a couple years or a couple months or longer than you would like, I want you to ask yourself, do you have a vision of who you want to go after? Where are you actually going? And does your team actually know it? Because it makes a big difference. The second element is, how are you actually getting business? Do you have multiple channels for generating business? I always joke with people, referrals aren't scalable. And what I found when I was running the first agency and when I first started, my first website after I did the InShit website was for a realtor. So then I started getting realtor websites. Nothing against realtors at that time. They didn't want to spend a lot. And they kept sending me the same types of people that would only spend $500 to $1,000 on a website. Well, I could not scale that business, where I started thinking about, well, if I want to get to 1 million and I'm at 500,000, I need a double amount of clients. Well, that's possible, but that means I'm going to have to triple my team in order to do that, which that wasn't possible. And then I started thinking, well, I need to raise my pricing. If I raise my pricing, I don't need as many clients. But if the prospects coming to me are not the right ones. So then I started thinking, how can I actually generate business outside of referrals? So when I'm looking at a business to buy, I'm looking at, do you have multiple channels? If you're just relying on Facebook ads, that's great. But what happens if Facebook makes a major change? If you're just doing, conferences, well, let's say that one particular conference which generated all your business goes away. Because here are the questions I'm asking is like, are these channels that you're using, are they reliable? How can I create multiple channels? And like, where are other people in your industry acquiring these people? And I look at it as kind of three channels. Kind of think of like a three-legged stool for the best businesses. You have an inbound channel, so people are actively coming to you for your help. You have an outbound channel where you're actively outreaching to people in order to work with them. And then you have a strategic partnership channel. So a strategic partnership channel is not a referral relationships. It's more like when we were doing websites, we knew that our clients wanted to control their website. And this was when all the content management systems started coming out. So we partnered with a small company called Microsoft and another company called Sitefinity, which were kind of leading up these spaces. And we went to them saying, we can design an amazing websites and we can customize your CMS in order to do all these amazing things. And we believe that 2 + 2 = 12. And together we can do better going back and forth. Well, Microsoft started passing us clients like LegalZoom and Coca-Cola because they knew we were going to use their software, but make it better. So what strategic partnerships can you actually find? And then as I'm looking at the particular businesses, and I want you guys to be asking the same question. When you look at scaling your business, if you keep asking yourself, if someone bought my business tomorrow, what would they do? That's always usually a good decision for you in order to scale your company. So if I'm looking at your inbound channel, and let's say you have three different channels, I'm going to look at it on these 6 different points. I'm going to be like, hey, if we create more content, is it going to produce more leads? If we introduce a new call to action, is it going to produce more leads? What if we change the hook? What if we run more ads? What if we spend more money? What if we actually make the ads better? So these are the questions that I'm asking. These are the same questions that you should be asking yourself if you're doing inbound. Next, on the outbound, what if we do more calls? Let's say you're generating over $1 million. Well, what if we double our calls? Can we generate 2 million? What if we hire more salespeople? Can we generate more? What if we introduce and change maybe the call to action, or introduce maybe a new offer and make it simpler for someone to say yes? Can we actually scale up outbound? And then on the partner channel, what are more partners? Remember, we started with Sitefinity at the time, and then we went to Microsoft. Well, could you go to another CMS system or another strategic partner? Technology is always really good. Associations are good. Publications are good. Other people in your industry. I know within our agency mastermind that we have, there's lots of business being passed back and forth because they're strategic partners and they work together. So one person may do a landing page, the other may partner with them on actually writing the copy, right? So how can you scale up your partners? Chris is a great example. He scaled to over 8 figures, runs an amazing agency, and he really kind of started looking at his channels and how can we actually, start increasing, the more leads, adding all and really answering all of those questions. All right, element number 3 that I look for, do you have predictable revenue? This should be regardless whether you want to sell or not. We all sleep better at night if we have revenue that is constantly compounding every month. And I'm talking more kind of long-term contracts, like at least 12 months, not 30 days and you have an out clause. That's not predictable. Someone can actually close. Now you may be asking me, well, I'd love to sell that, but none of my clients really trust me on that. Well, then that goes back to kind of some of your sales systems that you have or your offering system. How can you structure in a way where it makes it easier for a client to engage with you faster and easier and to build trust? Think about, like I always tell people, what is your foot in the door? Like, can you meet with a client for an hour and charge them for that, and then identify their biggest opportunity and then sell them a project? And then in that project, you're solving one of their pain points that you identified. And then once you solve that problem and they start seeing return, then you can position a long-term retainer. So all of these questions could start pointing you in the direction of what you need to think about. Another question I'm always going to ask, and you should be asking too, is like, how can I get my clients to spend more? If someone comes in spending $5,000 a month, how in the next 6 months can I get that up to 10,000? How can we increase the value? How can we show them the value? And then also too, how can I actually lower the risk of losing the clients and increase the stickiness? I know a lot of agency clients that we've worked with over time, they try to create some black box technology. Zach comes to mind. He goes after building manufacturers, and he's created this technology that when anybody puts in like a building permit, his clients get notified. So then that's on the leads, and they only get that if they're with them. Or how can they constantly share the value that they're actually delivering? A lot of us, and I want you to all be honest, right? Put that in the chat. Do all of your clients know the value that you guys are delivering? I want you to put that in the chat right now. I'm waiting. Come on, chat. Nope. Okay. Any other ones? Just Shane? Eric? Not 100%. Thank you for being honest. Now, the next question is, and you don't have to put this in the chat, if you want, though. Do you understand the value that you're providing your clients? Most of the time, if your clients don't understand the value you're providing, you may not understand the value, and that's a problem. If you understand the value that you're delivering, then the price that you deserve, and then you can start communicating that to the clients. So that is how you can build the predictable. Also, you got to think about, how can we increase the stickiness? One of the things, and I know a lot of my clients do this now, is creating a community just for your clients. And they only have access to this if they're a client of yours. And then sometimes they'll add even other people in, so then they can actually sell to new clients. And how can you actually increase the cost of them actually leaving and where they lose these benefits that you're actually providing. All right. Think of like what's a good business? Storage units, right? You stop paying, well, they keep your stuff and they sell your stuff. How can you actually do that where you control and you own the assets and maybe they're leasing it? Number four is a diverse client base. If you have one client that's more than 20% of your revenue, that's a huge red flag, both for you, but also for the person actually buying. Now, here's what you might be thinking. I get this, the biggest client ever, and they're 25% of my revenue. Should I not take that because there'd be such a big risk? No, but I want you to assume that you can lose them at any time, because I've seen many agencies go under because they've gotten Coca-Cola as a client, and then Coke makes a change with their CMO, and then you have to lay off the whole team. If I get a big client, that's a big part of my client base, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my ass off to get another big whale. So you got to kind of ask yourself these questions. If you have a whale, can you get more of them? And if you take on a whale, you know, do you want to, create the complexity, right? I always looked at it as this. You can go after minnows, and that's perfectly fine. And if you lose a couple minnows, you're good. But if you go after whales and you get a bunch of whales, well, how do you turn those whales into minnows, right? Because now you're just getting whales and whales. So you just got to kind of ask yourself this. But if you have one client more than 20% of revenue, it's a red flag for you and anybody going to buy you. Number five, and this is one of the most important parts, is you need to be working on the business, not in the business, meaning you need to have a leadership team running the day-to-day operations. If you stepped away for 6 months, does your agency grow without you stepping back in? It's a good, like a lot of times when I used to work with people one-on-one, I would say, I want you to take 2 weeks off. I want you to leave your computer or your phone behind and let's see what breaks. It's a telltale sign of what is dependent on that owner. Because if the owner's doing sales and I buy you, well, and you go away, because most cases when agencies get bought, the owner has been doing their business for so long, they don't want to take orders from anybody else, right? We all get that. And so that's a risk. Same thing with delivery. So if you're doing marketing, sales, delivery, and I should probably have finance in here, you need to think about putting the right operator in place. Now, you may be, what kind of operator? I want to talk about a bad operator, and I'll talk about a great operator so you can make sure you have the right team. So a bad operator is going to try to come in and have everyone do all these new things on top of what you're already doing. They're going to try to, do a ton without removing. And they're probably going to keep complaining, be like, man, this team is crazy, right? They'll be like, they're never getting anything done. They're constantly always going to be complaining. What you want is a great operator where they're going to free up a ton of your bandwidth, right? A good operator is going to take your 5 systems that you use and turn it into 2 and be more efficient. There's someone who can lead the business, and this should be the person that everyone on your team really looks up to. Now, here's the most important point about a great operator, and I want you to really think about this. A players know their value, and they're going to cost 20% more than a B player. But here's the caveat. They're going to produce 10x the results, right? So who cares if I have to pay 20% more than a B player? I'm going to get 10x the results. I think that's a pretty good, return on investment. Audra is a great example of this. She went from 300K to over a $3 million agency. She works 30 hours a week because she hired the right operator and the right operators in her business. Now, one of the things I will tell you, and this happened with Audra, she loved sales. She loved sales. And we told her in the mastermind, we're like, you got to get out of it. Like, if you want to build a business where you can sell it one day and really take it up to the next level. And she was just depressed after she gave away the sales. And I said to her, and actually Stacy brought this up. because she actually identified it, and she said, why don't you just add color like Jason always talks about to sales? You don't have to run sales, but you can get back involved into whatever you want to do. So, for example, guys, if you like something in operations, like I loved the creative process on the first meeting. I didn't have to be involved on it, but I was involved. And that's what someone's looking for when they're buying the perfect agency in their mind. Does Jason need to be involved in this? No, he doesn't. So if Jason removes, the business still continues to grow. That's the questions I want you to ask. The element 6 is, are you profitable and you're growing? Have you been investing in your business? How much have you actually been growing? What is your EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, tax, and depreciation and amortization, or something like that. It's basically net profit. I always get confused what it is, but it's basically what your company is actually making after you're paid a salary, but before distributions. And also, too, do you have a good story? So, like, for example, if you're just a Facebook agency, or let's back up. Let's go. You're just writing content. You're a content marketing agency, and AI just came out, and I'm thinking about buying you, and AI is making a huge disruption. What's the story that you're going to tell me? Are you going to be like, I'm leveraging AI in order to help us be more efficient, which is leading to be more profitable, but we still have humans doing this? Or are you going to be like, oh, it's just a fad, right? What's that story that we're talking about? That's what we're looking for. Element 7 is automated KPI tracking. Too many businesses think that they're better than they're at. Okay. And if you went to one of your leaders and said, what is my show up rate for my webinar? Or what's my close rate? And you had to go look it up and like do the calculations and all of that, it's not automated. And that means that's something that you're not tracking. So I love to see agencies that have a dashboard of the most important KPIs that they can look on an ongoing basis to make key decisions very quickly without a consultant like me coming in and going, what's this number? And then you have to go look it up and figure it out. The last element is audited financials. I can't tell you how many times that I'll have initial conversation with agencies and they think they're better off, or they think they're much better than they really are. And we start looking going, oh, you said your EBITDA is $1 million, but really at the end of the day, it was probably 300,000, which is going to kill your valuation and your expectations. And it's going to waste lots of time. So you always want to make sure once you get within 2 years of wanting to sell, if you ever want to get to that point, that you have audited financials, in order, and it gives you a better snapshot of what you're doing. Justin's a great example of conversions fanatic. He sold his agency for a life-changing number. I started working with him since the very beginning, and he really kind of put all of this together. And so when someone was looking at buying them, it was a very easy conversation. And it wasn't a very long process because they had everything ready. So here's what I want you to go do now. I want you to go back and ask yourself this. If someone bought your agency today, what would they change tomorrow? And if you want to know kind of an agency valuation formula that we've been using in the past and many agencies do to figure out like, am I worth $1 million, or am I worth 2 million or 5 million, or man, I'm only worth 200,000. How can I increase my valuation? If you go to this URL, jasonswenk.com/agency-valuation, I should have made it a lot easier, but I apologize. Take a screenshot of it. And I'll give you the valuation formula and a couple other little free things to help you, sell your agency or just get an idea of what it's worth. But I'll turn it over to any questions that you guys have. Let's stop sharing. There you go. Cool. Can they unmute themselves and ask a question, or they have to put it in the chat?
Yeah, they can put it in chat. So
Okay.
This was awesome, Jason. Everyone, thanks for listening this. And yeah, Jason is still here. So if you have any questions, feel free to post on chat, or we have a Q&A specific section for that. But the chat is fine. Feel free to go ahead and start putting your questions. Jason will be happy to answer.
Perfect. Eric, you are welcome. Couldn't have answered all your questions in 25 minutes. All right.
And
So,
if any other
Eric,
questions come up after the fact, I'm going to put Jason's email in the chat here. Feel free to just email him directly.
perfect. So Eric asked, I'm not looking to sell the agency. I'd rather set up the system so it becomes a lifestyle business where everything runs without me and I could focus on life goals. Yeah, I think it's a great example. Look, when we're buying agencies, a lot of times my partners get mad at me because I actually talk people out of selling their agency. Because any agency that's worse to sell is going to be very profitable to you, right? That's the end goal. You should build your business around you. And in order to build a business that you really love that is going to be profitable, you need to create those different systems in place, where you have the right operators. They actually know that direction. You're generating and you have that sales system where things are coming in. They're actually doing delivery. And I look at it as you should only be doing 5 roles as the agency CEO. And there's a transition period from an owner to a CEO. First one, I've already kind of talked about, set the vision, communicate it. Second one is coach and mentor your leadership team and only your leadership team. If you have more than 5 direct reports, there's too many people and you need to kind of segment it a little bit. The other 3 is be the face of the organization. 4 is create strategic partnerships. And 5 is understand the key financials. That goes back to the KPIs. Now, when you achieve these 5 roles, you've transformed your business. Now, a lot of times owners, when they achieve this, they get completely depressed because the business doesn't need them for what it used to be, but it needs them for, you need to do the things that it needs you, only you can do that part. So hopefully that actually helps. See, Eric says that I feel like I'm at a stage of doing PM, sales, admin, all myself, not making enough to hire an operator full time. Should I start with a VA or should I focus on increasing revenue myself? So the telltale sign when you're not charging enough is you say you're too busy. Okay. Now, so that basically says I need to raise my pricing. Now, going back to what I said earlier, you may go, well, my clients wouldn't take my new pricing. Well, that means you need new clients. So if you find new client, and I do it in kind of a staged approach, I will find new clients, like who are the new clients that will pay my increased pricing. Dean was in our mastermind, and this is what he did. And he added $87,000 a month in reoccurring on top of from his current clients. So this is the approach. All the new clients coming in, he doubled his pricing. When he got enough of those, he went to his old clients, said, we're doubling our pricing at this date. And then he would talk about why. We thought about half of those clients would leave and the other half would say yes, meaning that the clients that stayed would make up the difference of the old and they would have less work. All of the clients said yes. So not only did he make more money for the new clients coming in, but he added the extra $87,000 or 80,000, I think, and change, which was close to $1 million just by raising pricing, which then he was able to afford all these amazing people to do the things like the admin, the PM, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that helps. Do you have a list, Troy said, do you have a list of good KPIs that an agency should be watching and automating? It depends on every agency. And it really depends. Well, the key KPIs that I'm looking at on a daily basis, it starts at kind of the top. I could care less about the top line revenue. I care more about the profit margin. So like that profit margin should be around 30% and higher. And that depends on when you're getting closer to sell. If you're in the very beginning, you should be reinvesting a lot of your money in there. And it goes based on kind of your your risk tolerance of how much you want to invest. Another KPI that I would look at is, well, how many leads am I getting? What's my sales conversion rate? Like, how many meetings do I need to generate? Or how many emails do I need to send out in order to generate meetings? Or how many calls do my salespeople need to make? So, and you got to think about like KPIs. I think EOS said it well, where if you're on an island and the butler gave you a napkin of all your key metrics to let you know that the business is doing well, what would those things need to be? And that's how you would come up with your KPIs. Let's see. How do you balance the ethics of leased website with building recurring revenue? I've found that many business owners do not know the difference between owning and renting and are then taking advantage of. I feel a little scammy. Look, I was telling someone this, and Manish lives this as well. I truly believe this. If you lose all your money, you haven't lost anything. You lose your health, you lose something. You lose your character, you lost everything. So if that doesn't feel well with your ethics, don't lease the website, sell them the website. Figure out how else you can do reoccurring revenue in order to, and how else you can provide value to your client in order to do that. Shane, I know this is general. What does scaling look like before you have a medium large volume? We use E2M to scale, but at the end of the day, our team is very small. It struggles to grow beyond what we can imagine in a given day. Our clients are not small, but we're always working, not growing. I'm trying to understand what the question is. So you're saying, well, Shane, I wish I could see you guys and hear you so I can get some context on it. But Shane, I would say it might go back to kind of where you want to go and what's the big picture. What's your North Star? If you're always kind of working, it seems like when I hear that, it may just be be reacting to everything. And so you maybe, oh, is Shane coming up? Can he unmute himself?
Am I unmuted?
I hear you. You're live on the
Awesome.
radio. Ask your
Oh,
question.
sweet. Okay, so basically, I mean, I think you guys is looking for like this, what does scaling look like kind of in the early days? You get to a point where you're working many hours, and I think you were getting to this. You're working many hours a day, but you're not growing because you've run out of hours in a day. Yet those hours aren't producing the revenue enough to say, go hire a new project manager or something like that.
You're going after the wrong clients, or you're charging those clients the wrong amount.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing. And that goes back to kind of, for me, for the first couple of years in my business, I wasn't scaling. I was working more and more and making less, which that didn't seem fair until I said, I want to go after this particular market. Like, do you have a niche that you go after?
Yeah, so like mostly public affairs and government affairs type organizations in the Washington, D.C. area make up the most of our clients. So we do
Okay.
web development for them.
But you just do web development for them. That's it?
And support, yeah.
So it's more like project work?
It's the niche that we've tried to carve here is just the support, meaning people come to us with websites for one reason or another. They've lost their developer. They're no longer working with the agency that built it, whatever it may be. They consider their website super important because who doesn't? And they need someone to take care of it.
If I had a magic wand, here's my magic wand, and I could change anything for you, create the business that you've always dreamed of, describe it?
I think we have project managers and so on who are taking the calls and the support tickets, making sure they get done with the developers, while I'm concentrating on the growth and continued marketing of the business, and I'm no longer doing the dev.
Remember, with this wand, you can have any client in the world. I can gift this to you. What would that client be? Would it still be the same clients you have now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the clients that we have now. They have healthy budgets, and they're steady. Yeah.
So what am I missing? Why you don't have the money to pay these people to do the project management for you? Is that
Right.
what I'm
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So they don't have,
You know,
are you not, so are you not charging the right amount? You said they have healthy budgets, but
yeah, I don't know. I mean, you asked earlier, do people know the value of what you provide them? And I had said nope, because we do quite a bit of work for what we do charge, but the market can only bear so much. So, you know, we can charge a few $100s to take care of your website per month, but it's hard to get clients above that level, if that makes sense, at volume anyway, that I've found with no advertising budget and so on.
what clients would have, well, what do you charge right now? What's
We
average?
charge $250 to host and maintain a WordPress website for you.
And that's, do you guys design the website or is it just all maintenance?
Nope, that's all maintenance. That's maintenance and hosting.
Okay. What would you have to do in order to be able to charge $5,000 a month?
I guess that's a great question.
That's the question that you need to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Is
No, I appreciate that. Yeah.
what's the value? Like, could I provide? And I also look at it like whenever I charge anybody anything, if I'm going to charge them $1,000, I want them to make 10,000. So the first question is what's the value I could provide to that client? And then what's the price I should do? And then who are the clients that would believe in the value and have no problem, right? Like you cannot scale unless you create like, there was a mastermind member, David. He did social media reputation management. And I'd always have him stand up in the room. This was before you joined the mastermind, Manish. And I would always have him stand up in the room and I go, tell everybody what you do and then everyone would guess what they charge. And he was like, $100 a month, $200 a month. People are like flabbergasted. What? How do you make money? Well, his whole goal was to create a factory and just have everything systemized and just get millions and millions of clients. So you all need to figure out, do I want to have a factory where I have millions and millions of clients? Or do I want more specialization, fewer and bigger clients? Now, David sold for over 8 figures and, is traveling the world now. But you have to decide that. It's all goes back to the first element I told you guys of like having that vision and that story. So
Right.
hope it helps.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Eric, very good point. My net profit was quite low in 23, but I built some awesome systems and partnerships and started with E2M, smart move. So I'm growing in 24. Good. Awesome. Well, it seems like that's it. If you guys need anything else, make sure you check out the podcast or email us and we'll see if we can help you guys out or point you in the right direction. And thanks so much, Kevin and Manish, for having me. Hopefully, we gave you guys some value today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot, Jason. We really appreciate it. I hope all you attendees got some really good value out of this. And as I mentioned, if any other questions come up, I will post Jason's direct email and a follow-up after this webinar concludes. And we'll also send a recording out to everyone. So yeah, feel free to ask him any questions directly.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's all I have. Thanks, everyone.